Good evening. I am Reverend Kelli X, the Director of Racial Justice Ministries here at Scarritt Bennett Center. Welcome to Scarritt, and welcome to this live recording of Conversations at the Intersection. It's a podcast where we explore faith, identity, justice, and the art of building beloved community through the sacred lens of our stories. Tonight's episode is called Sacred Blues, Sinners, and the Rhythm of Black Spirituality. We are here to explore the beautiful and sometimes brutal tension between religion and spirituality in Black life, the grief and glory of gospel and the blues, and the ongoing struggle between cultural celebration and cultural consumption, as seen through the haunting and poetic film Sinners. At the center of the film is the juke joint in 1932, Clarksdale, Mississippi, where the sacred wasn't found in stained glass or pulpits, but in rhythm, ritual, memory, and moan. And yes, there's some vampires in there. But it's not what we are used to thinking about when we come to vampires. These vampires aren't sexy. Their seductive ways involve offering salvation through the language of assimilation, whiteness, and monoculture. And still, they persisted and resisted with the blues, with fellowship, with love, and with togetherness. Tonight, I am joined by two extraordinary guests, artists, visionaries, and warriors. First, Reverend Jeff Obafemi Carr, also known to many by Rev Jeff. Rev Jeff is widely respected spiritual teacher and a community activist who has worked at the intersection of interspirituality, the arts, media, and justice for over 3 decades. He's an award-winning filmmaker, writer, yoga teacher, and the builder of sacred spaces, including Nashville's first micro-home villages for the homeless, which he crowdfunded and built in 2015. His commentary and collective work can be found featured in the Smithsonian, NPR, and the National Black Theater Festival. You may have seen him as a contributor on Roland Martin's Unfiltered. He is the founder and chief spiritual officer of the Infinity Fellowship, a multi-faith spiritual community for those who consider themselves spiritual, but not always religious. From sweat lodges to Sunday yoga service, Rev Jeff creates ritual of wholeness rooted in ancient traditions, offering naming ceremonies, rites of passage, and healing spaces for the soul. He's also the chief weaver of dreams for the Media Scientist Labs, where he helps nonprofit executives manage executive campaigns and collectives bring their visions to life. He's a husband and a father of 5 and a longtime resident of the sacred grounds known as Nashville, Tennessee. Give it up. Woo! And joining us virtually from the crossroads of poetry, prophecy, and planetary rhythm is Saul Williams. Saul is a writer, musician, poet, director, and actor whose work shifted the culture around the globe. He burst into local content and global consciousness, with the film Slam, which he co-wrote and starred in, winning both Sundance Grand Jury Prize and Cannes Opera d'Or. As an actor, he starred in films like K-Pax, Walk Along the Blues, and I don't know if I'm gonna say this right, Ojuwi. I think I said that right. For which he became the first African American to win Best Actor at Africa's largest film festival, FESPACO. He also played, of course, Jebediah Moore, the pastor and uncle of Smoke and Stack, and the father of Sammy in Sinners. Woo! On Broadway, he starred in Holla If You Hear Me, the first hip-hop musical based on the poetry and lyrics of Tupac Shakur. As a director, his visionary film Neptune Frost premiered at Cannes and has been celebrated around the world. As a musician, Saul has released 6 albums and collaborated with staggering list of artists from Nas, Janelle Monáe, and Erykah Badu to Nine Inch Nails, The Roots, and Amiri Baraka. He's performed in over 30 countries, read poetry at more than 300 universities, and his work is taught in schools from the White House to townships and prisons across the globe. Saul continues to challenge empire with rhythm, beauty, and fire. He is currently working on a new album, a new film, and recent collaborations with Shabaka Kamasi Washington and Denzel Curry. So now that we have introduced everyone, and let's give us another round of applause. Woo! And the table has been set. The ancestors are present. The juke joint is open, and spirits are stirring. Let's get started. Now, I'm going to be honest. I went to the movies, and I was like, I need to talk to somebody about this. This is essentially what happened. And to be very honest, I don't do scary. I don't do scary whatsoever because my fear is that I'm just going to have nightmares. And one of the things that I really appreciated about this film is that I didn't have nightmares. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. I really only went to see it because Ryan Coogler was talking so much about it and talking about how we needed to go see it. And so, supporting Black artists, let's do this thing. And I went to see it. And what was so great, I will say also, I probably cried at least 3 times when I initially saw it. And so my first question that I want to share with you all is that the first voice that we hear in the opening of Sinners is Annie talking about the role and the power of storytellers and griots. In Western Africa, the griot holds and transmits the memories, values, and cultures for individual tribes and families. In Sinners, when Sammy sings, especially in Club Juke, but also when he was also in the car as well singing, it was clear that he has a unique power to collapse time, bringing the spirits of the ancestors and the possibility of the unborn into the reality of those living right there, creating a sacred spiral where he linked the past and the present and the future. And I'm wondering, why is art so integral to humanity's connection to spirit, religion, and the spiritual? Like, we cannot, if we're in church, we need that Hammond to play, or we need the drums, whether it's the trap drum or it's the djembe. Like, there's something about, even when I think about those that are within more European settings, that they are walking through the building, they've got incense moving, they've got them beautiful. Like, art is necessary for us to connect to spirit. And I'm wondering why you feel that is such an integral part for that. And I'll start with you, Saul.
Sure. So, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Well, I've always thought of art as it exists in the scripture, thou art God. So that art, which fits right in between there, is the thing that connects you to your highest spiritual self. When you mention, what it is about that Hammond or that drum, well, for a few years now, I've thought of the drum as the first form of wireless communication. One of the earliest forms of wireless communication. And, and of course, the colonial laws of the United States um, became very clear on that after things like the Soto Rebellion in South Carolina. They realized that we were communicating with drums, and so they banned them. Um, However, I would say that, our relationship to drums is not simply to communicate with each other, but it's also to communicate with forces and powers much greater than our individual selves. And that music, um, that music in and of itself is a transmitter of spirit. It carries spirit. And that art in general um, always maintains that potential in that, what Sammy tunes into, as you pointed out, Kelly, is something that is available to all of us. We all have the capacity to tune into that and collapse time. Um, we all have the ability to awaken something not only in ourselves but with those we communicate with, and that creative expression is something that honors that. So that I've always seen performance as a form of ritual. And that's whether I'm performing in a juke joint, in a stadium, or in a church. It is a form of ritual. It is to be honored as such. We are entering that space, into that circle, as vessels to be transmitted through. And that's whether you're holding a guitar, playing a drum, or just opening your voice and letting things, come out through the filter of your individualized, expression. So I really think I don't think we'd even be having this conversation if it were not for how art has served to guide, serve, and protect us on our journey. And by art, I mean, think of the humming and the songs that are sung when you work, just to get through a day, just to get through a day. Especially when we think of our ancestors and what have you, or even some of us now who may still be working in fields, you know, um, just to get through a day, this sort of connection between that release um, and connection um, collapses time and allows us. That's why people sing when they work, to collapse time. Um, so it's it's something that is. It is.
Well, they're snapping in here, brother Saul. They're already getting the Holy Ghost in the space today. So first off, let me say thanks for the space here, and thank you for the executive director, Sandrea Tolbert, here at this historic place. She's absolutely awesome. The Reverend Kelli X, I keep wanting to call her doctor, and something in my spirit may be prophetic in that regard, but very much you are doctoring in this moment by providing a space for healing and unpacking. And so to those who are opening these spaces here for these conversations, it's important. And of course, to the great Saul Williams, when y'all see me looking down, it's not just because I am in deference to this brother's years of experience in the creative arts, but it's also because I can see his face by the kind work of Brother Mike right here in this monitor. So I'm looking in his eyes without having to turn around. So if y'all see me looking down, it's a dual purpose. How do we unpack these things? The beauty of art is that it takes us to a place of introspection where we get the opportunity to interpret things that have meaning to us. And the way I see it from a spiritual perspective and an artistic perspective, being both of these things that live inside me, is something that my mama taught me and my daddy taught me. They said, son, when you open your mouth, you put your brains on display. When people go to church, when they want to get 3 points that everybody leaves with, they go to church for a sermon. When they want to get some story that means something to them that they can interpret based on their experience, they go to see a movie, or they go to see a play, or they listen to a poem. The beauty of an excellent story is that it opens all of our brains to see our experiences on screen. There are a lot of things that people got. When we say got, the internet is being burned up by people who are alive to interpret what was the meaning. Why was that baby handprint on that stone? What was that she was pouring in? Why did she take the fake money? Yeah. Oh, I saw all of these Easter eggs in here. And that is, in the end, a testament to the quality of the storytelling, because it gives us things to unpack about ourselves. When I hear conversations about the sacred and the secular, as if those are dichotomies, those are false dichotomies that were given to us by Western teachings that we have adopted. Yeah. And the reality is there is not one without the other. If you trace the origins of theater back to its origins and you think about the sacred dancers in Ifa who personified the Orisha, when you think about the people who come and personify Asar and Aset, or Osiris and Isis in the parade between the temple of Karnak to the temple of Luxor, and when you are able to see that this personification of a god deity in ritual, as Brother Williams referred to, this is how performance started. Mm-hmm. Now, we can argue that we're a little too far on the performance side of things now in terms of the essence now. We can unpack that later. But when we talk about it, there are moments that come to mind for me as I open my brain and consciousness in this valuable discussion. Yeah. And it takes me back in time and space. We know that Einstein taught time and space is relative. It can be folded over itself. But nowhere do we see this or hear this more than particularly in music. I'm transported back to the Ryman Auditorium. My wife and I had the opportunity to see Buddy Guy and B.B. King perform. It was one of the last times that B.B. King performed. And as you know, Buddy Guy plays the older Sammy in the film. A remarkable unpacking of that, historically speaking. And I'll never forget that here we are in the Ryman Auditorium. And if you've not been in the Ryman, it's called the Mother Church of Country Music. When you're in the Mother Church of Country Music, and as I performed in there, you look at the gallery, you look at the balcony that was added later, and it says Confederate Gallery. This is how old this place is. It was part of the Confederacy. So B.B. King, Buddy Guy in there. And they start with Buddy Guy. And his band comes out on stage. Now, this is a blues concert. It's wine all up in the Ryman. It's shots that have been taken on Lower Broadway, people feeling it. The crowd was overwhelmingly white, especially on the front rows where the $200 seats were. So those of us in the balcony, we're like, okay, they started the show. The band started vamping, and you hear the drums. And then you hear the bass, and you hear the 1, the 4, and the 5 chords in the blues, and you hear that standard 12 bars. And people are like, woo, yeah. This is awesome. We're all, yeah. Buddy Guy. The music's still vamping. Everybody's clapping, and it's very loud, but very polite. This elderly man walks out from center stage and comes down to the front of the Ryman. And if you've ever been in the Ryman or performed there, there is an addition to the stage that is a circle. In that circle, if you ever get the tour, and I invite you to do so, you can stand in that circle and whisper, and people in the balcony can hear you. That's how beautiful the acoustics are. Buddy Guy walks down towards center stage, and he finds this sweet spot in the scale of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. He takes the 7, and the blues is special because it bends the 7. And those of you who are music people, you know, but if you aren't, you can go do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But the blues goes do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. There it is. We start hearing it in the church, in the holler, in the fields, in the holler. But he bends that 7, and he just bends it and goes, and he holds the note. The band is vamping, and Buddy Guy just stands there and holds that one note and just starts looking around at people. 16 counts. Yeah. 32 counts. He's looking around. The people in the balcony start standing up. The people on the floor start standing up. Everybody starts standing up, and then something odd happens. People start, yeah. Then people start screaming. Then people start batting their heads against their hands and crying. And it is 100% Holy Ghost. And he holds it until everything, there is a wave of warmth across this space where every single voice is unified in this one note. And when he knows he's got everybody, he just drops the lick and starts a song. He goes, came home this morning, what a shock. And by then, it was mayhem. So when we say sacred, secular, no, that is one note, that is one thread that goes from time immemorial all through every single iteration of music, art, and spirituality that we have right now. And kudos to Coogler, the crew, the cast, and everybody for capturing it all in one single film.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And what I love so much about that particular scene is that it didn't matter. Everyone who was present in the scene, their ancestors showed up.
Come on.
And their ancestors showed up because it wasn't like, it made me jump. So like what's happening is that there's space for everybody in this, but everybody's not doing the same thing. Right? They're not doing the same thing. They are being themselves in that moment, and that which their ancestors, that lineage is flowing through them in there, that allows them to show up both there. But then also what was even more miraculous was that which is to come was also present. So you've got the turntable, and you've got the twerking, and you've got the funkadelic is present. All of it is present in the moment, because as you like, the notes are the same. It's just about how they're arranged. And so it's all showing up in the moment. And it is that brings in the enemy. It's that makes the enemy aware of what's happening. And I'm trying to decide, do I want to go there? Or do I want to go somewhere else? Do I want to go there? Do I want to go somewhere else?
Trust your spirit. Go
okay. And so my question is around, we're gonna move there. Where did I lose it? Give me 2 seconds. There we go. So what's interesting to me is that whenever we watch vampire movies, whenever y'all watch vampire movies, I already established I don't do the scary. But what I have heard is that vampires are sexy, that they're seductive. You know, you got Twilight, they're twinkling. You know, and you got the twinkle ones. You've got the interviewing ones that are, bringing you to the dungeon. All of these things are happening. There's an appeal. Yeah. In Brooklyn, I did see. That's the last vampire movie I saw. That's true. That's the last one I saw. Vampires in Brooklyn. But what's interesting here is that when Remick shows up, his seduction, actually for everybody, is cultural. When he shows up at the white folks' house, he names the Indians, those Chickasaw, right? He says their full names. And when he looks and sees the robes, he go, oh no, them Indians. Like he switches real fast. He's very aware that the currency that he has is in community. He's operating in that. And so then by the time he gets to the Jew, and honestly, by the time after he has bitten, and we understand that the lore of this particular movie is that they know the memories. They get the stories, they get the songs, you get the memory of the folks. And part of the story is that Black folks want to be accepted. And so the real seduction is fellowship and love. It's fellowship and love. That we're just here together, and fellowship and love. That's what Cornbread says, right? Cornbread says, "Oh, we love everybody." That's what Cornbread says when after he is bid. Because all of the seduction has already happened. Like that connection those were folks that already had real connection. They already loved each other. There was already, or they were lusting each other. Either way, there was this thing that was happening prior to. What does this reversal, or really, what does it mean about this monocultural evangelizing that's happening there, and the film suggesting about the dangers of assimilation or salvation through whiteness? Salvation through whiteness and this assimilation that we are all, and we can all just be the same in this together, which is different. Be clear, they were all together before he showed up, while at the same time knowing their enemies. Like, they weren't letting the white folks in because they understood who the real enemy was. But by the time they are there's a different type of assimilation that's happening, and there's salvation found in whiteness. I'm gonna let you go first, Jeff.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
okay.
Rev Jeff.
I'll take it either way.
Mm-hmm.
You unpacked a whole lot in that one statement. So I'm going to try to just stay in the middle of the lane, because again, there's a lot that comes out of this. We think about vampires, and I came up as a horror fan, comic book fan, used to walk from South Nashville over here to Great Escape every Saturday and get the latest comic books. And I was behind the Bela Lugosi era, but by that time, Bela Lugosi and Nosferatu and all of those things were airing on TV. We still found ourselves on screen in Blackula and eventually Vampire in Brooklyn. It was there. Mm-hmm. When I think about vampire, I think it helps us if we embrace a colloquial name for vampires that's not as sexy, and it's bloodsuckers. Right? If we think of people or places or things or entities that are bloodsuckers, they take the life out of something and absorb it into their own selves. Mm-hmm. There's a metaphor there. What's really powerful about this particular story is that it is first and foremost a good story. Mm-hmm. It is separately an exploration and unpacking of race and class and culture. It is also separately an unpacking of spirit and all of this. But as with any good story, all of these things work together for the good, so to speak. When we're talking about unpacking this from a concept of who the bloodsuckers are, what the bloodsuckers do, seduction is definitely a part of the process. And I'm glad you brought that out. But what is seduction? Seduction is seeking fellowship and love. You see somebody that looks good to you, where you can have an intense fellowship and possibly have some physical interaction that may lead to love and may lead to security. Then you know how to look at them a certain way, toss your hair a certain way, fix your stare a certain way, because and seduction is a natural part of interaction between species. I watch in the morning some birds making noises, and they're very interested. I've learned to imitate some of the noises, and I delight when I can almost trick a bird to come near me. But when I get too close in, another bird will make that noise to say, "No, I'm at work here, bruh. Leave me alone. Stay out of the process." Seduction is vital, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Seduction changes when it crosses the bridge from natural connectivity into an intent that is negative, to harm. So seduction happened, yes, when the vampire arrived at the couple's house, and you see the prescient nature of the vultures signaling, because the vultures are there because vultures have this intrinsic sense that if they see somebody in the desert, they can see death, they can feel death. So when you say the vultures are circling, that is not just an omen that is artistic, that is actually scientific. That happens in real life with the vultures. So he knows to go, he's going to this place, he comes to the door, and again, the avenue is friendliness. Yeah. We are the same. And when that is not working, he sees the hood and says, "Oh, I know what to say to you to get what I want." So seduction takes on this chameleon-like energy that makes you say, I am like you, so trust me. I don't want to jump too far ahead. Yes, I do, because again, Saul set the tone. It's been in time and space. This happens with us naturally, right? This is what we do. But it's interesting that the multiracial character who is perceived in passing as white,
Right.
because of some connection, she's seductive too.
Yeah.
Because she's saying, no, I'm not like them. I'm one of you. Let me in. So that metaphor that we see in our communities, gentrification allies, we have this concept where we're talking about, no, I am not like them. And yet and still, I am like them within the hierarchy of race, where we know that white and male is at the top and everything else, is, my brother, the scholar, Dr. Carr, will say, everything else is a race to not end up at the bottom. So please let me in, although I have this other lineage as well, but I'm not going to be put out like everybody else, because I like this neighborhood, because I like this school, I like this community, because I'm an ally, because we had a connection, we've been together. So even though you tell me to leave, I refuse to leave, because in my mind, I think we are the same. And this is what ends up causing some of the problems down the line, because of this trust that is now established, where we had one rule, everybody can't come in, and then we start bending. And once you start bending the rules a little bit, it becomes a slippery slope, where the overarching seduction becomes, I want to take what you have in order to give me credibility, in order to give me power, and in order to move you from the 2 and the 4
No. Oh no.
to the 1 and the 3.
Not to the 1 and the 3.
I mean, again, you open your mouth, you put your own experiences on display. But if you note, we talk about the variety that you spoke of. When you see the turntables, when you see the African dance, when you see the Orisha, when you see everything in that room all at one time, different beats, but same energy going throughout, that energy of the 2 and 4 is there. Got 1, got 2, got 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's in everything. It's a rhythm in everything. But by the time you see that, note that there's not much variety. When we get to the end and everybody's outside, everybody's moving to the same beat. Everybody's doing the same dance in a circle, and everybody who formerly, just moments before, was clapping on the 2 and 4 are now clapping on the 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3. We have changed, even though the essence of spirit is the same. So this transformation that we have, from moving from the 2 and the 4 to the 1 and the 3, it portends that there is doom. Although those who get bitten will tell you that it was seductive to see that there is a connection. You got folk music, we got this same thing. Yes, I want humanity to be all together. The seduction is for the global community and for everybody. And it's just that hope that seduction can feed on if we're not careful.
If you just let me in.
If you just let me in.
Yeah. Saul, you got thoughts? You got thoughts?
Of course I do. Reverend Jeff, you got my mind traveling all over the place. And I truly appreciate it. You know, one of the first things that Kelli, your question made me think of in relationship to the approach of, the vampires to the juke joint. I thought of, that original juke joint, which was the ancient, African and indigenous empires that were existing before Europeans arrived. So I thought of the approaches of the boats to the island of Haiti, which is the first place that Columbus and his peeps arrived at. And I thought of the approach of the ships to the west coast of Africa and their points of seduction there, which I think is appropriate to talk about because the blood that they used to seduce was essentially the blood of Jesus. Was Christianity.
Come on.
Yeah.
I don't want to upset nobody.
Come on, brother.
But But
That's good.
and so I think of that, right? Because in many ways, I think oftentimes of the church, the Catholic Church in particular, as the first startup, if you will, and how, you know, like Columbus, for example, had converted uh, during the Inquisition from Judaism to Christianity. Um, and if you know anything about, you know, people who convert, sometimes they may be a bit more ecstatic
Yeah.
about that newfound faith than people who are born into it. And I remember reading Columbus's journals, which of course I did not encounter in school. I didn't know from my schooling that Columbus kept journals, but I did eventually come across the journals that he kept, which are published and you can find. And you know, reading his descriptions of how he was welcomed in IT, and truly welcomed, right, by people who would, you know, they did pageantry, you know, the first point of seduction for them as they approached the shore of IT, and a number of, you know, indigenous had gathered at the shore looking at these huge masts and sails. And the first thing they did was they fired the cannon, not towards them, just up, because the sound of the boom was enough for many of the people, as Columbus describes, to fall on their knees.
Wow.
And to say, oh, give thanks, right? They then would spend around 4 or 5 hours on the ship before they came off, making themselves up, putting on their best clothes, putting on makeup, wigs, dressing their horses. They traveled with about 300 or 400 horses. The people on those islands and in the Americas had never seen horses. And then they would eventually lower the thingamajig and ride off of the ship in their capes with buttons and makeup and wigs on horses. You can imagine the scene, huh?
Yeah.
And so, you know, the first thing, like, the people, like, were touching them and almost thinking of them, you know, according to Columbus's description, as if they were gods or other beings. Like, what is this? And Columbus wrote Queen Isabel at the time saying, like, I don't need a whole army. They're so fascinated with us. You could just bring like 50 people, and I think we could get them. You know. Then I think of the continent of Africa and the arrival of those ships, and, you know, in places like Lagos and in places on the West Coast, you know, that we're talking about, you know, as early as the 1400s in some of those cases. And the tools that they use, of course, they were bartering and trading and what have you, and the people were open to bartering and trading. But they also had this thing where they were like, what you don't have is knowledge of Christ. Let me tell you about that. And the people were like, well, is that where these capes and these ships come from? Is that what's this thing you're holding that kills people, you know, immediately? Is that from learning about this thing you want to tell me about? And so the gathering of their children, like, they were seduced. They were successfully seduced. The ramifications are there to this day on the continent and in our lives, by a good story. A good story. So when I think of that vampirism, blood sucking, and all of the different ways in which we could, you know, use this as an analogy for our experience, what was given and what was taken, right? Like there's that old saying of what they came with the Bible and we had the land, and they gave us the Bible and took the land, right? Um, these things are interesting also because even within that religious lore, there is huge discussions to be had about blood, right? Now, of course, I'm sure Reverend Jeff, and many of you probably familiar with the rites that have surrounded menses in women, and the ancient traditional passage of the red tent, and all of these things that were happening in ancient Kemet, Egypt, and we know the stories of how much of the Old and New Testament have also borrowed from ancient Kemetic rites and practices. We're still saying amen at the end of our prayers, which is 100% from Kemet, from Amin Ra, right? So these things carry over through time, and the role that they play is interesting because, we talk about our stuff being co-opted, but we do a good job of co-opting their stuff as well. Like my family's from Haiti. And yes, Catholicism and Christianity was certainly imposed on the Haitian people, but there's much of what wasn't imposed that remains. And there's ways in which we hid what we wanted to hold on to within the figure that they would allow us to see, right? So that certain gods or orishas, spirit entities become symbolized by Christian symbols, but really we are just using those to speak to the power that we wish to speak to. We also understand and acknowledge that you can change the vessel. It's okay.
Yeah.
The essence remains the same.
Yeah.
Right? And so, I don't know if there is a response to your question in terms of without regurgitating stuff that we're all familiar with in terms of, stuff being taken from us and stuff being, appropriated by whiteness, or our desire to have a seat at the table, and to be, accepted or respected by those so-called powers. These are all parts of the, colonial system in its work on us as individuals, psychologically, spiritually. Like, we are still working through it, fighting through it, dying through it, right? And obviously living and singing and sharing through it.
That's good.
And there are still forces that wish to, we can go beyond the metaphor of sucking blood to taking our power from us, right? Much of what's happening right now, even, as we see the blitz of whether it's executive orders or deportations or people fired from their jobs, and people, feeling as if they don't have the power to stand up to the thing that they are facing.
That's good. What you've got me thinking about is, in the movie, your role as father and pastor was very much so centered around fear and running away from evil. So that Satan is coming, the devil is coming, and you need to get away. And even by the end, when all this happened, the thought is if he just puts down this guitar, the thing that actually what we experienced all was really what was probably the most beautiful, the beautifulest. I don't know. Yes,
The most beautifulest thing in this world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Old
yeah,
hip-hop
yeah,
hits.
yeah. Just like this, right? That was actually his key, but was to be put down. But then at the same time, we've got Annie moving directly toward it. Very clear, as opposed to moving away from the evil. She's like, "Oh, I've learned. There's been work. I've studied. I know, and discerning between Hanks and vampires, and then doing the work to move towards the evil to destroy it, as opposed to running away from it. Like the whole fear is to run away, and in many ways, the running away from the evil is really a running away from oneself. That's happening." In this, and so what it makes me think about is, in particular, how thinking about Stack, and so like just using this one part to it, but I think it goes to kind of the wholeness of it, is that within Christianity and within most religious, or I would even say spiritual systems, we don't kill. Like, killing is not the ultimate goal, but within Christianity is definitely like, thou shalt not. And that when that happens, there must be some level of repentance. But Stack, after he has killed all of the clan, every last one of the clan, well, no, all but one of the clan, in that moment is when he gets a glimpse of the afterlife and an opportunity to be with the ancestors, those whom he loved the most, to be with his woman and his child who is deceased. And it is only when he unloads the clip on that last clan member is he able to, and put down a cigarette, because she said she didn't want to smoke, right? Was that he was able to hold his child. And so Sinners' theology around redemption is, or the afterlife, is different. Talking about like what is sinner, like when it's speaking about justice and morality and afterlife for Black people, and what does it mean for redemption not to come through repentance, but to come through resistance.
Resistance. Can I answer first?
Yes. Go.
So, first off, I mean, of course, I'm very familiar with the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill, but, I would also acknowledge that that Old Testament, in terms of religious text, is probably the most violent and genocidal text that you could ever come across. It's used by Netanyahu right now, right? And saying that we are going to kill the Amalek, right? In referring to Palestinians as beasts and animals.
Yeah.
And of course, in that Old Testament and in our old and contemporary spiritual practices, there is still the practice of sacrifice of lambs, of chickens, of sheep. These are not only ancient practices, these are still very much practiced today. And in fact, even Christians practice it. It's just that they are divorced from the process. So they're going to eat meat, but they're divorced from the act of killing the meat.
True.
But if they were a part of the process of killing the meat, they would say the prayer over it. They would do everything like, the same way that they do before they eat it. So one, I would say that even within, that Old Testament, we are not divorced from killing. And we are certainly not divorced from resistance. I would think of, Jesus, for example, a Palestinian, as obviously someone who was standing up to resist ancient traditions, to resist useless traditions, to resist misinterpreted traditions or rigid relationships or rigid interpretations to traditions, right? So I don't know if it's necessary to juxtapose repentance and resistance. Even if you look at that, those Latin roots of the word repent, like it doesn't mean fall down on your knees and beg and pray and say, oh, I promise never to do this again. Repent means rethink. Penser, to think. Repent means rethink. If you've sinned, which means from Hebrew to miss the target, rethink. Now, so it says it becomes much simpler to say, well, if you miss the target, rethink.
Oh, that's good.
Right?
That's good. That's good.
And so, and that I think speaks directly to where we are as a people politically, right? Because we have to rethink our positioning in the society that wants to, for example, make us complicit with genocidal acts against indigenous people, that wants to make us complicit with the act of xenophobia and calling out people that have run to this country because of the way our own country has destabilized their politics. We have to rethink our relationship to liberalism. We have to rethink our relationship to Democrats. We have to rethink our relationship to everything that many of us are very comfortable with defining us. If we are to play a role in actually resisting, because far too many people think that resisting means just resisting Trump, right? And we are ignoring that which is in front of us, happening right in front of us. We're ignoring the teachers of our elders who understood the importance of internationalism and solidarity. We are ignoring and discounting all of their teachings to say, no, I just got to worry about me. I would argue that we're not even following in the footsteps of the people that we profess.
Yeah.
Such as Jesus. I would argue that we are more in love with belonging and not having to think about, because I'm already saved, which being saved is really just playing around with the idea of privilege.
Teach.
I'll leave it there.
That's where the Hammond organ comes in, child.
That's right.
Oh, and that's why I know
Saul,
y'all don't hear me, and I turn around and walk away.
At Infinity, we don't do the doors of the church is open kind of thing, but that's a moment.
That's a moment. That's it.
And I hope y'all caught that, because in the end, I will proclaim this boldly, even understanding the overarching theology that many of us have operated in. That I will point you to something that Brother Saul pointed out. Like, we don't study and understand where things come from. So we're content to get it on the internet, or we're content to carry a rumor, or we're content to do things just because the people before us did it without realizing why they did it. Sometimes they had to do it. They had to hide those saints and those Orisha and those Egun and Egungun. They had to hide those behind the symbols that were given to them from Catholicism. So they had to hide their Ifa. They had to hide their Lukumi. They had to hide their Nago. They had to hide their Candomblé, their Santeria. They had to hide that just so that people could say, oh, they're being good Christian folks. And they say, yes, we are, boss. Wink, wink. Now let's do the work that we need to do to keep it alive. Whether you understand it as Ifa or Vodun, or you make Hollywood make it voodoo and you make it hoodoo and all, whatever you got for that, it's this remembrance of one concept that I will proclaim in this space, in this safe space. We are all sinners. All of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. We are all sinners. But the question is, what is a sinner? As Brother Saul alluded to, if we break it down even to our early text of Hebrew, hahata, which means to miss the mark, then we think sin, because we have this false morality imposed upon us, is looking at a lady's behind when she walks by in a dress. But we get up every morning and do a job that we hate to do, but we do it because we feel we got to do it for the money. We're missing the mark. We're sinning by doing that. Now, when you say that I have missed the mark, if you interchange that word instead, then all of us have missed the mark and have fallen short of the glory of God. The glory of God being that divine purpose that is a spark inside each and every one of us. And we have been taught, again, superimpose this pyramid hierarchy that capitalism and the West gives us. It creates this false dichotomy between the rich and the poor. It used to be 3 stages. It used to be the rich at the top, the poor at the bottom, and now the middle class. We're working now toward a place where it's the ultra rich and the crippling poor. But again, here's this dichotomy. Do we have repentance and what's on the other side? We take this back theologically. We didn't always think like this. Prior to the advent of, say, Zoroastrianism, which gave us the precursor to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they gave us this concept for the really smart theologians in the room of eschatology, which is the doctrine of good and evil, and the concept of these 2 warring factions and there being a battle in the end, and those who are on the right side going to make it in, and those who are on the wrong side are going to burn eternally forever. Prior to that, when we talk about African concepts and Eastern concepts, it was embodied in the folk slang that you find in the country when you ask a brother, how you doing? How's things in your world? And he says, hey, man, everything is everything. We thought that everything was everything. God is in everything. There's no, there's evil and there's good. And if you ask some of my Judaism practicing friends, and you talk about the concept of an eye for an eye, and you talk about repaying people, there's no conscience around this. I'm going to hurt somebody, and then I'm going to be condemned to hell for breaking a law that is here. And we know the 10 Commandments. You go even further back to Kemet, you got the 42 affirmations of Ma'at. All of this stuff is from our stuff. Yeah. However, we've been spoon-fed little things that make us fight and then to turn internally about ourselves so that we get more concerned about not breaking the law because we don't read enough to understand that this concept of religious imperialism that you trace back to Constantine in 325 AD and the Council of Nicaea and what we put in the Bible and what we don't, that it was all about one thing, compliance and population control. Boom, boom, boom. By teaching people that they are not connected to spirit, but they have to work a pyramid again. And I know I'm stepping on my own toes. I'm ordained in the Baptist church. I'm initiated in ancient mysteries. I've been through E5, but I'm stepping on that Baptist part of me when I say that we were taught very much to be compliant. We the people who come to church and get whipped about where we sinning or not. And in order to connect with God, we got to first be sheep. Listen to the language. Mm-hmm. We got to then deal with the under shepherd, which is the shepherd of the church, who is the person who then connects us, because the sheep know their shepherd voice. They connect then to the pastor, and then the pastor connects us to Jesus, and then Jesus connects us to God. That which is within us all the time. So it creates this almost unimaginable contradiction where we tend to now categorize everything in a dual term, in a dichotomy. It's either A or it's either B. So people will leave sinners and you say, have you seen sinners? I'm not seeing that. That's demonic. Well, your concept of demonic came from a Western construct. Well, it's satanic. Well, what about what happened before Satan was created for you in the literature? What do you call that? Wow, I don't like that, man. I ain't going to mess with that stuff, man. I'm gonna hang out with my boys. I'm gonna stand on the corner. I ain't gonna see nothing like that. I don't do nothing, no devils, no vampire. I don't do none of that stuff about God. But brother, you just cracked that pint open and poured a little bit off the top for the brothers who ain't there. Where you think that came from? That's called pouring of libations to the ancestors. So these practices that we have in our normal everyday living open us up to a spirit of something different. It's not whether we repent, not whether we resist. Those are all things that are together. It's what are we willing to invite into our lives through allowance. And the sister who worked the roots, she allowed spirit to work through her. Yeah. And because of that, she moved in confidence. She didn't wait in fear to cast things out. She said, no, let me step forward because this is what I know. And I'm willing to allow spirit to work through me to help us work through this. And by doing that, we move our contradictions out of the way, the contradictions that we've been trained in. And when people say, well, I don't like the fact that they got roosters over here and they letting the blood out of these lambs. And as Brother Saul said, well, when you buy something that says kosher meat or halal meat, that's the only difference. And how ironic is it that we have been placed into a place of action where we deny things like cannibalism, hoodoo, and all of that. But we still never make the connection that when we go to church, we are eating the body and drinking the blood. Because the ritual continues to avail itself to the people who are there. And I'll never forget, because my children have been raised in a little expansive space and the interfaith and all of that. And all of these things are incorporated in infinity. But I'll never forget, my wife was there in the audience. She can remember this. You remember we went to your friend's wedding? Okay. Just want to make sure I was right. We went to a wedding once and our children have been coming up, very positive note. We've been to the Hindu temple, been all these places. And we're sitting there. And while I am not embarrassed about anything per se, it was that one moment where I was almost truly embarrassed. We're sitting toward the end of the wedding. And at this particular church, it was a very religious ceremony. They did communion and they asked the couple to get on their knees at the altar. And the pastor went and grabbed a cup and they did communion. And they said, here, drink of the blood. And our children screamed. And I was like, stop. I was like, oh my God. Everybody looked around and I was like, oh my God. And I touched them on the chest. I said, they was like, but they're drinking blood. Papa, they're drinking blood. I said, no, that it's not real.
It's not real blood.
We almost ruined the whole doggone wedding. Good teaching opportunity. Mm-hmm. And yet, if we look at the world, when we teach theater, when we teach, when they teach changing emotions and moving ourselves, the thing that we try to teach people is to be more like children. Yeah. Children are open to learning. Children naturally respect each other. Children have to be taught to hate people based on difference. They have to be taught that, but it's intrinsically in them. So out of my children's mouths came this proclamation of, this does not make sense to me. What are we doing? Yeah. And that's the question that we get to unpack around films like this. What are we doing and why are we doing it? And how does it serve our freedom and liberation? And those are the themes that emerge from what we say, and we have said all along, is a really, really good story.
So I'm going to open it up to you all. Does anybody have questions? Question. You got a question, Aaliyah? I got you. I'll come to you. Yeah, I got it. That was my point.
Hello, my name is Aaliyah Ponder. I'm a student at Vanderbilt Divinity School. My question is for Saul. At what point in the film, if at any point, did the script and acting things out and seeing things acted out, were your theologies and understanding of the divine and spirit expanded?
At what point, I'm sorry, your question is at what point in the script or at what point during the shooting did
all of it? Yeah, throughout the process. So throughout reading the script, acting it out and seeing it act out as well.
Got you. Well, of course, when I first read the script and it's very interesting to the fact that so much of our conversation revolves around that beautiful scene in the juke joint, because I do remember reading that in the script and immediately having the sense that Ryan had written this entire story in order to construct that moment. And when I actually I'm not in that scene, so I wasn't there when it was shot. But when I saw the film with Ryan in December, um, he told me that because of the fact that they had done test screenings on audiences across the country, it had split down the middle, with essentially with black people loving that scene and white people saying, I don't know why it's there, it took me out. And that he was being pressured by executives to take that scene out. And my argument to him was that this is a film about the blues, and essentially that is your blues solo. As the director, that is your solo in the middle of this thing that you've written. I do know something about the. So, first, in answer to your question, the first time I felt that connection to something beyond it just being a job was when I read that scene in particular, because I understood that something was happening there that communicated in a scope that was larger than, let's say, the typical script that you come across. The next point was then arriving on set, which was last year, about April, in Louisiana. And we shot on an actual plantation. And I had never been on a plantation. And this was a plantation where the slave quarters had been preserved. So that the energy on the grounds, and it was on those grounds that they constructed the church that I, filmed in, and it's on those grounds also that they constructed the juke joint. There was an energy on the grounds themselves that made me step away, that made me crave a moment to and for myself. I did not want a tour. I took the tour alone because I needed that intimate connection with what I was feeling, what I was already feeling. So I would say that first, in response to your question, that communion with spirit was truly at its most evident for me simply on those grounds, feeling the feet, the lives, the stories that had passed through those grounds themselves. It was highly charged. On top of that, that sense of fellowshipping and being of one spirit was prevalent amongst the crew. Ryan primarily works with people that he has worked with from the beginning. Many of the teams working in different departments are themselves couples, in the same way that Ryan and his wife are there on set. Luca, who works on the music, he works there with his wife. They're on set. So there are families, there are this communal spirit. So I felt as if I was welcomed into a family, actually, by mere participation. Then we enter the role of performance. And for those of you who have, a relationship with performance, it is not too different, let's say, than how one might describe catching the Holy Spirit. You know, I mean, I've studied acting, you know, in university and grad school and all of that, but they teach us techniques, but they say that technique is there for the days when the muse doesn't strike, right? Because if you're doing a play, you may have to do it 40 times. We can't guarantee you're going to feel it the same way every time, but I can show you how you can empty yourself, techniques to empty yourself, techniques to become available, techniques to open yourself, techniques to, you know, be able to walk through the process, even if you're concerned about how am I going to pay rent? This show ain't paying me enough. How to get that out of your mind and step into that zone and execute it on a level so the audience always receives it the same way, even if you don't feel it the same way every time. That's the role of technique. What I felt in the pressure of performance was something else. I felt as if I were in a highly charged environment, where the work was serious, where the intentions, like chakras, were aligned. You know, on that same set before we shot, talking to Ryan about, you know, his relationship to the blues and how he ended up telling this story, he started crying. Which is to say that with these hundreds of people working for him, he's the boss on set. All of this stuff is happening, but he's in the most vulnerable place. In the most vulnerable place, the most receptive of places. Listening, sharing. At one point, like I said, weeping. And the main thing that I felt in those moments was this sense of, you know, when they brought in the extras who played the congregation, we shot for that scene over the course of a few days. Not all of it is there, but I stayed in character as the pastor of that flock, whether the cameras were shooting or not, because I knew that the rapport that we would build would be necessary. But what that did, because of the fact also that it was on the grounds that it was, so that not only had the grounds already been consecrated with the toil and blood of our ancestors, but then, you know, in costume and the pageantry of performance, with all of its, you know, ancient relationship to morality plays and all of these things, as you said, Reverend Jeff, yes, performance and theater is born of these ceremonial rites. I felt very much as if I was engaged in something much larger than myself. Clearly I was. I have a very small role in this film, and it is much larger than myself, clearly. But I cannot impress upon you the beauty of the intentions placed into the work from the start, from reading it, from collaborating with the other actors and crew members on set, and the reality of where we were shooting. All of these things, in terms of in relationship to your question, I mean, maybe if you had asked me that before it came out, maybe I would have said, oh, when we were shooting. But then there's another thing that happens when you see people's response. Where you go, wow, that's really interesting. So those sorts of communions do not end, they continue, they spiral. we may tune in or tune out of it, but it's always there. And the points of when you tune in, there may be more things to, to wonder about. So that's a long-winded dance around your question.
That was beautiful. That was good. Any other questions from? Good evening. So, well, first of all, hey, Saul, I've been following you since undergrad. You have no idea who I am, but just know I was in the poetry scene in Nashville, and you were like the holy grail of, everybody was trying to be like you back in the day, man. So we appreciate your contribution to the arts, and it's an honor to be in the room with y'all's beautiful minds. So y'all have like brought up a few things. I'm trying to decide which one I'm gonna focus on the most. But there was something, Kelli, that you had said earlier when you were referencing the juke joint scene and the unity that was there amongst everyone when they were on the, like Brother Jeff was saying, on the 2 and the 4, and everything just kind of linked up, and that time travel happened, and it made me think of connecting to source. Connecting to the beginnings of us all, and how, through that movement, that those vibrations connected everyone and brought them back to like a oneness. But then my brain like switched over to, in the Old Testament when it spoke on the Tower of Babel, and when, the world was of one, everyone spoke the same language. It was just like, that unity there. And then when it was like broken apart, then that's where you have these different nations emerging with their different languages and cultures. But, understanding a more universal perspective of source, God, the Most High, there's common threads amongst us all still. And I think that, my journey has been reconnecting those common threads amongst us all and being able to see, where, it's not all so different. And that's from, honoring our ancestors. There's certain things like one of you all had said earlier, like, at the end of the day, for the most part, there's certain things we all agree like are just not cool. Like, okay, we're not knocking grandmamas over the head, stealing purses. We not, there's common threads. And even if they say it in a different language, there's like an energy, there's a vibration there, there's a 2 and a 4 there that is still present that we all can reconnect on. So just starting with that. But what I really wanted to say, I just wanted to thank y'all for sparking that thought, because I was like, okay, that's kind of deep. I see what was happening in my brain here. Y'all got my mind activated. But did y'all notice how, and I want to hear y'all speak on this, did y'all notice how there was so much selling going on from the vampires to the people that were inside the juke joint? And I'm pointing that out because there's so much in our culture that is driven around sales, around making a sale, getting someone to buy in to your program. And I know all through undergrad and even after, there was folks trying to get you to sign up for the MLMs, like they want to, get you to sign up to this program. Well, if you can bring in 2 people, then they'll get into this and all of that. And it was like they were getting more people, and people people you trust, who you feel like, man, but I know they wouldn't lie to me. But it looked like they got a bad deal though, because it's blood dripping out their neck. But that's my brother and I love him. He couldn't be just trying to, feed me no bull. Let me consider. And, he almost went out there because he's like, ma'am, no, but that's my brother. Like, no, that's my friend. That's my, I grew up with them. Like, I know these people. They wouldn't be lying to me. But it was that convincing of the sale, and like what sales does to create like possibilities in our mind and get you hoping for like, oh, well, what could this possibly do? And like with those sales tactics, y'all know, like, they use empathy. They tried to play on empathy. The vampires tried to play on empathy. They tried to play on like scarcity. Like, oh man, this ain't no good. The clan sold you this, right? They finna really come burn it down and kill you anyway. So you might as well go ahead and just come on over here with us. They tried to play on fear of loss. Like, oh, well, if you don't do this, then you're going to be in misery. I mean, you black, you know what I'm saying? You got the worst deal ever because you just black and here. And like, what's that going to do for you? So it's like them using those sales tactics. And to close the deal, though, they needed your agreement. They needed your permission. They couldn't enter without the permission. And so like, that's how you close a deal in sales. It's like, okay, I told you all this stuff. I played on your emotions. I used them little fear tactics, like you're going to lose out. So now what you say? So it's like, I want y'all to speak on a little bit like of any parallelisms that you guys may have noticed surrounding, those tactics that the vampires use, and like the vampirism in the marketing and the sales tactics that are used in our country, like every day and across the world. Right. And everybody got blood dripping out their necks, trying to act like it's cool, like we don't see each other bleeding out. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'll dive in there and say that one gift that a griot, that a storyteller has, is to make us think deeply about how we see the world and where we are in the story. We could probably find someone in this story that we could say, that's me. I'm the person who's going to run. I'm going to be the person who is going to help fix this. I'm going to be the person who's not going to let my brother go. I'm going to be the person who's going to be there to dance. I'm going to be the person to party. I'm going to be the person to drink. I'm going to be the person to shoot somebody. There's something that we relate to.
I'm going to be the person.
Or I'm going to be all of them at some point, which is the complexity of being human. The beautiful thing about art is, again, it's interpreted based on where we're coming from. And I give credit to Ryan Coogler for being a modern day griot in depth, in form, and also just telling a great story. So the person who has Black nationalist leanings can see themselves in this. The person who has spiritual leanings that are toward African and Eastern religions can see themselves in this. Well, ironically, I read a review by a very right-wing conservative newspaper. And I saw that they had done a review on Sinners, Sister Reverend Kelli, and I said, this is going to be fascinating. So I went and I opened it up and I started reading it. And here this person who attacks a lot of everything that has to do with coming together as humanity, Black Lives Matter, just anything about equity and equality, DEI. This person wrote the most glowing review I've ever seen of a movie. Right, Saul? You catching that, right? He said, I was waiting. He basically said, I'll summarize this. He basically said, I was waiting because of the cast to see it devolve into a missive on race and culture and pit people against each other. But what I saw was that all humanity was represented. The Irish immigrants were able to say, me too. I've been through what you've been through. So it was a wonderful unpacking of humanity and our desires under the umbrella of being a vampire genre film. And I said, damn, that's a great storyteller.
Yeah, indeed.
For the person who wanted just a vampire movie, they got it. They didn't see all of that. For the person who wanted to say, hey, we're Me Too, they saw that. For the person who saw the overarching themes that come through that one note that Buddy Guy held, that one note is the blues. It's the field hollers, it's the songs, it's the energy, and you hear it, you see it when they're going through the field there and he's got the guitar in there, and young brother Percy, who is here in Nashville and worked to Sister Alicia Haim over there as a director, and he was the body double for Michael B. Jordan, and he's out in the field hollering back. When you go through there, that one note is there. It's in the cotton picking songs. It's in the work songs. If y'all look at Alan Lomax and his sons and the recordings in the 1930s and 40s of Parchment Farm prisoners singing those work songs, you see and feel that energy when people are, oh Lord, bird, oh Lord, gallon of well. Now you hear that, and it makes its way to the juke joint. The irony of it making its way in the church, and yet the personification of it being rejected. We see the early rejections of lead the guitar. But what I think that symbolizes, but no, you can't lead a guitar because without the guitar, it's me. Well, get up there and read the scripture. Well, I know the scripture. I closed the Bible and kept reading the scripture. I know the scripture. And so what's next? So we've been taught, we've been trained, we know this. Yeah. But again, you have this thread that continues, and it continues through the scene where everything came together. And it told us that the past, present, and future is all tied to that string, to that thread in the tapestry of who we are. And the beauty of it is to unpack what you were saying. The beauty of it is we supposed to be different. We're supposed to be different. If we were in a church environment, I would say, turn to your neighbor and say, we're supposed to be different. Y'all can do that. And I'm just going to give you this little example. Right? How many people enjoy a good salad from time to time? A good healthy salad from time to time. Okay, good. That's almost everybody in the room. So if I were to take, some black olives and some romaine lettuce and some spinach and some carrots and ask everybody in here, what's your favorite ingredient? And I would have put it all on the table and lay it all out and make this wonderful, gorgeous salad. So gorgeous looking that everybody would salivate over to partaking in it. If I were to take that salad and dump everything that I just said into a blender and put some dressing in it and blend it all up and give it back to you in a cup, I don't even have to ask. All of the yucks and the uhs and the ugly faces in here from that. It's insane to drink a salad smoothie. What makes a salad unique is the lettuce is being the lettuce. The olives are being the olives. The cheese is being the cheese. The dressing's being the dressing. I don't need the tomato to try to be a black olive. I need you to be who you are. And then your unique flavor, your unique consistency, your unique culture now becomes what we call humanity and the world. When we realize that it's supposed to be different. Because if we look at it even spiritually, we can see that the universe, that God, universal God, who we try to define, because as the old saying says, in the beginning, God created man. And ever since then, we've been trying to return the favor. When we talk about what the universal God is seen by the different expressions and manifestations of itself so that itself can interact and get to know one another all over again. And if we see that, then we unpack that through the sales pitch, because the sales pitch, once again, is Western, and it's imposed over every single area of our lives, from business to education to religion to spirituality. And it's all based on the capitalist economic principle of you don't want to miss out. You don't want to miss out on this party. You don't want to miss out on eternity. You don't want to miss out on, and then we have this fear, because fear is generated from lack. And the fear and lack that generates makes us susceptible to say, okay, well, just come on in. Or maybe I'll go with you. Or maybe I'll bow down when you hear the boom. Or maybe I'll be impressed when you put on the dog and pony show, and I'll start to do the same thing. But when we reach that point where we commit to who we are, what we're supposed to do in purpose, we don't see it as a challenge. We see it as all things working together. We embrace the difference, and we embrace the difference. We respect the difference. And that's what the blues is able to do. That's what I saw with Buddy Guy. That's what I remembered in that. I saw that there's this transformation here. There's this song that continues throughout, and it continues through every instrument that you may use, whether it's feet and hands on the floor, whether it's a shakeré or a tambourine, whether it's a guitar. I love the insertion of the dobro guitar as well, because the dobro is a special guitar. If you ever tried to get action on that joker, those strings are hard. You got to press down. You got to provide some strength on that action, and it's used in slides. That energy there of that dobro captures, this is called a resonator guitar. It was created in California in the 1920s, late 20s, early 30s. But the resonator sends something out. So I thought it was fabulous that this dobro becomes, this silver shield becomes the thing that begins to slay the enemy, because there's something that resonates from the culture that is protective. And that's the beauty of this story as we unpack it. And that's the beauty of any good story, that we'll continue to talk about this for years, and that we will attribute the props that are necessary to the writer and director of this film, even as we open our brains up and attribute to stuff that he may not have even meant, right? We like,
Remember that part when he-
all wise Ryan, did you notice that on that back wall there was a slight picture of color, and he may be sitting there, as all creators are. So I'm sure Saul could say they're the poetry written things that we've done, and people will say something, we're like, man, I didn't even think about that, but
Yeah.
hey, if it means something to you, it came through the spiritual flow, and it was supposed to be for you. And so that's how I see that in that regard.
Oh,
Do you have something you want to add, or you don't have to?
sure. Yeah, sure. I'll add something. Although Reverend Jeff totally touched on it in terms of the question surrounding sales, and I mean, I felt like what you were describing, essentially, not you, Reverend Jeff, but the young woman who asked the question was capitalism. Yeah, as you touched on already, Reverend Jeff. But yes, that is the role of capitalism and the construct. We talk about race as a social construct, but so is poverty.
Yeah.
Right? And within, the experiment of capitalism as practiced by the United States, which is the furthest out we've ever gone with that experiment, which is, very far removed actually from the idea of the fullest idea of democracy. We still have work to do. And you talked about the role of fear there, and one of the roles of capitalism is to induce that sense of fear of even imagining that there could be a better or different approach. This is what McCarthyism and the Red Scare was there to like shake out of us, was like, how dare you think about socialism? How dare you bring up the question of why we don't have healthcare and free college, even though they have it in Europe? And so France and Italy and Germany and England, they have healthcare, and their taxes cover their healthcare. Their taxes cover the price of university. There's only one reason why we don't have it in the States, is because the white people here did not want to give that to black people.
Teach on that.
Yeah.
It's in Canada, but they did not want to give it to us, because if we give everybody free healthcare, then these niggas will have to get it too. So all of these things operate under that umbrella, right, of, as Bell Hooks put it, right, the what is it, the heteronormative, patriarchal, white supremacist, capitalist reality. Or I like very much how Ruth Gilmore describes race, which is Ruth Gilmore's definition of race. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. There it is. The state-sanctioned or extra-legal production and exploitation of group differentiated vulnerability to premature death.
Woo.
Racism. Group differentiated vulnerability to premature death. That's racism. And you don't have capitalism without racism. Capitalism itself is a racist practice. Right. You have people everywhere who say, I can't start my day without coffee. I'm a chocoholic. I gotta have my chocolate. All of these things come from places with brown people who are exploited, who you don't want to be told about where your coffee come from.
Yeah.
Where your chocolate come from. Right? The racialized practice of capitalism keeps us in fear of questioning power, and keeps us in doubt of whether we could ever achieve something beyond it. So, because that's part of the proselytizing surrounding capitalism, like, well, there is no other way. The rest is communism, right? Of course, everybody hears community in communism, but most Americans have no idea what communism is, right? Yeah. And there's a reason for that, obviously. But, I when I decided I wanted to be an actor at the age of 8 or 9, I told my parents, I want to be an actor when I grow up. My father said, I'll support you as an actor if you get a law degree. And my mother said, oh, then you should do your first school report on Paul Robeson, because he was an actor and a lawyer. I encourage all of you to look up the life and times of Paul Robeson. As pertains to this discussion, as pertains to art, as pertains to the fact that we are all here gathered to discuss a work of art. And we have to understand art's connection to propaganda, right?
Yeah, that's good.
W.E.B. Du Bois said, I don't give a damn about art. This is a quote from W.E.B. Du Bois in 1926. He said, I don't give a damn about art unless it serves as propaganda.
Yeah.
Which is to say that he understood that unless we made art, songs, music, stories, theater, film that uplifted Black consciousness and the concept surrounding Black liberation, we might never achieve it. We need propaganda to push our story. They use propaganda daily, right? You have tons of movies. Half of them are even paid for by the Defense Department so that you be gung-ho and patriotic about what? About the power of this nation?
Yeah.
There's tons of propaganda like thrown into us every day. Oh, the richest nation in the world. Why so many of us poor? Right? They talk about freedom. And when they talk about freedom, they mean economic freedom. They mean the free market. They talk about freedom to avoid talking about responsibility, the responsibility that comes with power. Just like the responsibility that comes with being a daughter or a son. The responsibility of being a part of a family or community. Those are the discussions they avoid. All of those things fit under the umbrella of racialized capitalism. When I talk about the church as a startup, one of the first things that they were able to use in that system was the calendar. I consider myself a victim of the calendar because I was born on leap year. I was born on February 29th. I'm only 13 years old. I've had 13 birthdays, right?
Yeah.
And so you have Pope Julius, you have Pope Augustus, these calendars, right? But what those calendars did, because you look at, Asian calendars, you look at indigenous calendars, you look at Hebrew calendars even, you look at indigenous calendars across the world, and they help facilitate our understanding and relationship to nature itself. Right? You understand, like people in Japan will start gathering, and in China will start gathering around the ocean 5 days before a full moon because they know that the tides are higher. They understand the 28 cycles. They understand the 13 moons and its relationship to the body and to the land.
Yeah.
Our calendar is there to divorce us from that. Why?
Yeah.
So that we'll work harder. Right? That's the reason for that divorce. And the same reason that Christian holidays were placed on top of pagan holidays, so that we would forget why we were doing what we were already doing. We were already celebrating the solstice. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
We were already celebrating fertility, right? All of these things. But all of these things operate at their best under racialized capitalism because it keeps us from ourselves, from understanding, from class consciousness. And without class consciousness, it's impossible for us to overthrow the system. And then, of course, there's many of us who are like, what do you mean overthrow the system? I mean, the system ain't great, but I'm fine, nigga. I ain't trying to change it. I ain't got time for all that. But how do you know that it's possible for us to achieve ourselves if we can't achieve that? What is it that makes us so frightened? You know? So, yes, there are salesmen at work daily in our lives in the same way that those vampires were operating as salesmen, saying, oh, but it's wonderful. And what were they trying to do? They were trying to suck up your memories, suck up your culture, suck up everything. They're like, oh, Sammy, I just want that music to flow through me. I want to feel that connection to the music as you feel it. Ooh, if I could, I could let everybody else go if I could have you, Sammy. Oof, I just want to touch that. And how is that different from, you know, the way in which the essence of us is sucked by this system?
Yeah.
The workforce that we have become in American prisons, right? The workforce that we have become, and the fact that we will do anything except talk about why we need to be organizing a general strike in this country.
Yeah.
So that we could have the actual demands that we want for our children, the health care that we want for our grandparents and our children, so that we could have the education for our children. There's only one way we could achieve it. And it ain't January 6th, nor is it October 7th. It is through the realization of class consciousness and us being able to overcome the barriers that they thrive off of. So it doesn't surprise me that that right-wing reviewer gave the review that he did, because Ryan did his work.
Yes, sir.
Ryan did his work. And that is what should serve as inspiration to all of us, because we have work to do.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's real good.
Let me dovetail something that Saul said.
I wonder if you're going to say what I was about to say.
That's definite. And again, if I could just add this, because again, I thought about that calendar. What we've been set to is a calendar that is about capitalism and credit. So we've got a calendar of capitalistic credit. That's what we've got. It's all about distraction. You can't get free, because as long as we can get the credit to buy something we can't afford, we can pretend that we are doing better than we are. We talk about January, we celebrate the new year. Go to a New Year's party. We talk about February, you got to do what? Valentine's Day, you got to buy something to prove how much you love somebody. Never mind how often you're there, you tuck your kids in at night, you do everything. No, you have to buy certain things. Then you come next to what? In the spring, we got Easter. You got to buy something new so that you can show out at church. Then you go from Easter, March, April, May, you got what? Oh, Mother's Day. You got to show your mama how much you love her by what you buy her. And you better get something right. Then you got June. And, you know, you say Happy Father's Day, maybe you get a card, but you're going to buy something in America, right? You're going to buy something. Then you got 4th of July. No, there's something between that, isn't it now? What is it?
Fireworks.
I know we got mad when Walmart started selling Juneteenth ice cream, and they started selling Juneteenth flags. And when people came to me and said, well, Rev, what do we do, man? This is crazy. They're trying to co-opt our holiday. No, they're not. You wanted it to become an American holiday, and American holidays are about generating capital. Yeah. Of course they're going to do that. This is the calendar system that we live in. Yeah. Yep. And when you get past now Juneteenth, there's another bump. Then you get to 4th of July. Then you get August, and then you get September and the fall festivals. Back to school.
You got a back to school shop.
Because your kids got to be shiggity sharp, or they're going to pressure you because you don't have the latest shoes that they saw on the internet. Then you get to October. And I'm not talking about my Wiccan brothers and sisters and the celebration of the coming of the fall and all of those, but you're talking about Halloween. We ain't talking about Old Hallows Eve. We ain't talking about Madre de Dios. We ain't talking about the real stuff. We talking about the commercial stuff. You got to decorate the lawn. You got to buy the candy. You got to do all of that. October, then November, you got to give thanks with mythology about how this nation was founded.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you make room. You're like, well, no, I don't celebrate that. You still buy the turkey. You still get people together. You still swipe that card. You can't help it. Then you get to December, and you get to Christmas.
You got to turn up.
You got to go all out during Christmas. I was in a relationship that I survived years ago with a wonderful woman whose family was interesting. I witnessed fist fights in the front yard between uncles. I seen people go to the hospital over car note payments being missed. I saw a grandmama attack a grandfather with a skillet at a family event. And I was told, oh no, they just love each other. That's just how they communicate. It was extremely traumatic. And yet, at Christmas time, love was shown by who got the people the most gifts. And it was a 6-hour process of unpacking these gifts to show love. And then we roll right back around. No, don't miss it, because the Walmart got this too. You can get your Kwanzaa kits now. People said, no, the Nguza Saba, brother, there. No, I know. It's okay. Because this is now an American holiday. Yeah. So when we talk about how we do these things, we allow ourselves to unpack. And when we unpack, and again, I always know, I trust us because we land on our feet the whole time. Slave ships didn't kill us. Colonialism didn't kill us. Imperialism didn't kill us. We found a way. We're always going to find a way. And that's what I know we have to operate in. Spirit trusts us. But we also have to be mindful to be vigilant. I don't mean this in a moralistic sense. I don't mean, because I like a good single malt, every now and then. Or red wine from time to time at dinner. We're going to like that, So I ain't judging anybody. I tell everybody, you don't judge anybody when you come to our fellowship. And yet, if you'll note the arc of the film, brilliant storytelling. The more drunk folks got, the more into partying folks got, the more they let their guards down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is a metaphor for how we are. The more we engage in something that's external to distract ourselves, this is the culture we're in, right?
Yeah.
Because we're going to drink, we're going to get the coffee, we're going to get the newest phone, we're going to get the newest internet, we're going to get the newest shoes, external distractions. Mm-hmm. The more we add external distractions on, the less vigilant we are on making sure that we achieve the purpose, even if the purpose is just to have fun and fellowship. And if you notice that as the liquor and all the music, everything got higher, the guards got lower. And then even mistakes were made. Because I remember when they passed the garlic around to test, and Delta Slim was choking on the garlic because he was like, oh, and they were like, oh my God. They were about to kill that man.
He's gonna die.
If I was from Memphis, I would have said, Lord, they about to kill that man. They were about to kill that man until they realized that no, something was not agreeing with his system. Mm-hmm. They actually voluntarily slaughtered one of their own brothers because they came and saw him in a pool of what they perceived to be blood. Mm-hmm. And so they put him outside with the vampires, only to go back and realize that it was wine. Mm-hmm. Well, why did they realize it was wine? Not was it only wine, but they were drinking what? German beer and Italian wine, things that they were not used to putting into their body. So this brother went overboard with something that was foreign to his body. He overindulged and it came out. And the only perception that they could have, because they didn't have a clear mind by that time, because they were full of other stuff, was that this is blood. And by the time they realized it, it was too late to help somebody who was actually free at that time.
Yeah.
to keep him from it. And so I say that to say that we always have to be mindful. That's why even in teaching, just say everything is in moderation.
Yeah.
No judgment. But it says that because we know that if we go too far in the external stimuli, we risk losing that which in us that would keep us vigilant and successful.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing it back to freedom, because this is the point out. So what was interesting about what Annie said is that a vampire is a spirit trapped in the body, in a dead body, right? So the spirit is not gone, but the spirit is still present. And so, and at the first ending, in the middle of the trailer in 1992, when Smoke and Mary show up, Stack, thank you very much, Stack.
I remember because he was stacking those dollars.
He was stacking.
Metaphor.
Yes, and he had the on his yeah. So Stack comes in and he smells him and he's like, time, but I've got something for you that can make you last forever, right? He's selling. And as they're preparing to leave, Sammy says he has nightmares once a week and all of that, but that was the time he felt the most free. Mm-hmm. That day before the sunset, that's his moment of liberation. And in that moment, Stack has to admit that too was freedom. Mm-hmm. It was the last time he saw his brother, and the last time he was able to let the sun touch his skin.
How about that?
And I believe that so this is me working in the dogma of the of the film, that the freedom is found in allowing them to die again. But what it will require is to die to a particular. And I believe for us to die to a particular system, that our willingness to let go of the capitalistic system, our willingness to remove ourselves from white supremacist thinking, would actually create the true freedom that we desire to have in our lives. But the death, as we saw, is painful. Which is so interesting because that initial death is also painful. But it's so quickly turned around. And you put on the clothes, they put on clothes to cover up their scars. They were hiding that thing. But the truth of the matter is they were still dead and living in that pain and having to conform in certain ways. But a willingness to do what Annie did.
Oh, of course.
Right.
If you see this happen to me, kill me before
it takes over, because I've got to do. Yep. And I believe the capacity that capacity to still be with our folks is still present. It's still present.
Always.
When we allow ourselves to kill the dead that is holding our souls.
But it also requires that we kill the vampire within ourselves before it gets too big.
Before it gets too big. Yeah.
And that's what you were saying there with Annie, when she says that, kill me before. And yes, death is painful, especially when it's something that you don't control. And death is always painful when we invite some noun into our space and then it turns on us. Woo. And we all know that a noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. So that moment when we're in a low place and we say, come on in, there's no pain like stepping up to the plate and say, listen, I chose this. But there's a liberation in saying, I don't have to stay. This is the old school, man. I don't have to stay in the shape that I'm in. I don't have to do this. No matter how low I am, I've got energy that tells me I'm still connected. And so when we move the Western paradigm from it, that goes back to what we were saying earlier about the commandment, thou shalt not kill. When we remove that and go from a dualistic space of good and evil and go to a non-dualistic, expansive space of everything is everything, then of course, once he delivers justice to those that did wrong, not just to him, but in this slaughterhouse that they obviously were cycling people through every now and every time they had a chance to sell somebody a dream, they get them in there and slaughter them, and they just showed up. Work as usual, ready on a Sunday, ready to go do it again. But then this does make sense then when we think about it from our long history, that now he has finished the business here. He has a chance to rest. and he can be back with his ancestors, back in the afterlife, ready to do whatever iteration comes next, rejoined with the collective, because I'm not thinking about anything. We look at that as justice. We look at that as a closed circle. We look at it as a loop. And we think it's done until we see the larger loop later on in the bar.
Right.
That this still comes back around to certain things that stay, that even through vampirism, Smoke and Stack had this connection between them that said, just on your word as my brother, regardless of what evil may take you over, on your word, we're going to leave this man alone.
Thank you. And that takes me to my last question. Thank you so much. Because both Smoke and Stack throughout the film are determined to protect their cousin. They understand that he has a gift. They don't even fully know how much of the gift is until they're there in Club Juke, but they're determined to protect his life. And I'm wondering, who are today's griots, and what must we do to protect them?
I'll let one of ours, Brother Saul, because Saul is a griot. I'm going to go ahead and say definitely. That's undeniable. Yeah. But I'll go ahead and defer to you to answer that question, brother. But the first one on my mind, and I have a couple of more after him, would be Saul Williams.
Well, I appreciate that. I would say that in this day and age, our griots are the thinkers, organizers, and academics, many of whom in all of those spaces are Black women, that the abolitionists I'm thinking of, the mutual aid providers. I think of them first, and also those who are, writing the books that are being banned, the topics that are hardly addressed, once again, thinking about abolitionism and all of these things. Like, it's those people who I see now. Of course, the role of the griot is not just to forge, new ground and propel us forward in our, thinking or relationship to our culture and histories. Do you guys hear me?
Yeah. We hear you.
Sorry. I'm also clear on the fact that there's also that, like in a few weeks I'm gonna be participating in a tribute to Miss Sonia Sanchez, right? Mm-hmm. That's the obvious sense of our griots, or the people who carry those traditions, histories, that magic also. Yeah. That ability to, as you said so beautifully in the beginning, collapse time, to remind us of ourselves. There are way more than I would say any of us can list, but they are very much amongst us. The problem is that we don't necessarily elevate them on the level that we elevate those who are successful financially.
There it is. That's good.
That's the problem, right? It was always shocking to me that when, 10 years ago, when every rapper would say something like, I'm the Black Trump. This is while Amiri Baraka was alive. It's while Maya Angelou was alive. While June Jordan was alive. While many of the people that we love are still alive. Bell Hooks was alive then, but niggas wanted to be the Black Trump. We have to remind ourselves to honor our griots and to kind of reacquaint ourselves with our values within a value system that says the only thing of value is your potential to earn.
Yeah, that's good.
So, but yeah, I think of those people like Dr. Ruth Gilmore Wilson, abolitionists like Angela Davis. I think of those those thinkers that are propelling the conversation forward and daring us to be more courageous in our critique and understanding and response to racialized capitalism, which is to say, to the reality that we are born into. Those are our griots.
Thank you.
That's great. I'd also point out this. There are people who aspire to be storytellers. And in this society, there are people who aspire to be entertainers. And there are people who are called to be griots. You can't really aspire to be a griot. It's a calling. And when you have communities that come from that, there are generations of people who hand this down in their family lineage. And it comes out in many ways. And although we're in a place where with access to information, many people can absorb this and then realize that they're a griot. But I think there are some people who can definitely agree are griots who have emerged from a calling that is deep and profound. I think if we're looking for storytellers, I think Ryan Coogler has proven himself even in his youth to be a griot. Because a griot can open the portal of past, present, and future. And do that by embracing a concept that I teach in Infinity called mitakuye-asin. It's a Lakota concept that's used in the sweat lodge. When you enter into the sacred lodge, you enter and you say mitakuye-asin, which means all my relations. In other words, when you walk in any room, like here, I don't see any empty seats in here. This place is crowded. I see Saul Williams with immaculate background. I can't even see everything because I see that his room is crowded. The reason why is because when we enter into a space, we come in not just with ourselves, but with all our relations, with all our people. We're never outnumbered. Griots are people who are able to point that out so that times when we are down, we recognize that we are never alone. We're never by ourselves. So that energy comes out of a film that you see by Ryan Coogler. It comes out of a book and a novel series that you read from Octavia Butler.
Love
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Mind of My Mind, Pattern Master, Kindred. You go through these books, man, you go to another world. I think a person who is next in that tradition, who does not get the due that she's supposed to get, is Tanana Reeve due. And if you've ever read any of her novels and her energy, it's there. She is a calling to griot. Here's something that is important to recall and to keep in mind. Malcolm Gladwell, if you've never read much of his work, you should read it. You know, Tipping Point is great for people who want to understand what you need to do to make things manifest. But one book that's one of my favorites is Outliers. If you hadn't read Outliers, do yourself a favor. Not only does it talk about a person needing to spend 10,000 hours to master what they're doing, but that always provides fruit if you stay vigilant. Some reasons that's the words of my spirit tonight. But if you stay on task, the other thing is with outliers are people who appear in the present. They may be based on something in the past, but they're very much operating in the future. And because of that, they're isolated, ostracized, and made to feel alone. In the present, we say, well, this person is good because they made $1 billion this year. Or they got the money. What is happening is we're at risk, if we're not mindful of this, of our griots being replaced by entertainers. And that the aspiration is to make that money, to get that dollar, to get that house, to get that yard, when the aspiration should be wealth. I know I stopped everybody with that. The aspiration should be generational wealth. And I'm getting everybody again on that because we hear this on podcasts and forums. Brother, our problem is we have to build generational wealth, but we're using a capitalistic lens. So we think we got to leave our kids 6 houses. When the reality is, how about we generationally leave kids to be decent human beings? To be key people who respect their stories, who are people who listen to wise counsel from elders, from people who seek alignment in their divine purpose. And this is what wealth truly is. And I've been involved with enough counseling with families and even my own family where parents do their best to try to leave somebody off better economically. And 15 minutes after they're in the ground or in the chamber, the kids are fighting over all of their stuff because aspirationally they're looking for the economics. No, we're in a new era now where that is transforming. And forums like this give us an opportunity to reframe what that is that we're leaving. And so the griot is a person that stands at that crossroads and said, here's the past. I know where we are now, but here's what leads to the future. So in that way, I'm going to encourage everybody to embrace, if it's not fully in you to be the griot, embrace the griot that is in you.
Yeah.
Tell the stories, learn the history, move in purpose and boldly. Be who you're supposed to be. Do not aspire to look at someone and be them. The one thing that I love about, with all controversies and everything around Oprah, she told us a story once at an event. She said, there was a young lady who came up to me and she said, I want to be the next Oprah Winfrey. And she said, baby, you can't do that because I'm doing this pretty good myself.
Good. Yeah.
Why don't you be the first you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If we're operating in that,
Yeah.
we all embrace the griot spirit.
Yeah.
To take what we got tonight, to pass it on, and to do something with it that is transformative. Sammy escaped because of a bond and a word that was made between cousins that he didn't even realize was happening. He didn't know how he escaped. He thought I was just lucky. We all thought he was lucky. I was like, dang, man, that's some, oh God, for the grace of God and the ancestors. But we didn't know that he was protected by a bond between brothers.
Yeah.
If we talk about the twin lineage and the Ibeji and the Yoruba tradition, or the concept of two sides and duality, then we talk about quote unquote good and evil, if we want to frame it that way. Same DNA, same energy, same womb, different sides, but a bond that was there that preserved him because there was something in that recognition that what he has to give the world.
Yeah.
This transformative power needs to exist and run its course.
Yeah.
Above all.
Above all.
And on that level, when we talk about complications of good versus evil, smoke and stack, they still ended up doing the right thing for our people. Regardless of whether you like what we do all the time or not, they still did the right thing. And it brings out the complications and the nuances of living in this world, who we are. Listen to that revelation that's coming to your spirit right now, too. Because Kanitha and I were talking on the way over here, and she said, well, people have a problem with him killing folks. Ironically, it was bad possibly for him to get revenge. But she pointed out, these guys were soldiers. America had no problem with sending them places to kill other people based on their interests. 1914 to 18, World War I. But you have a problem when you do it in the interests of your people. Then we get moralistic, which is what that programming has taught us to be. Oh, we don't want to kill. No, they have no problem sending you wherever you need to go to die however you need to if you're preserving the model. So again, by unpacking these experiences help us to grow, and they help us to turn within to make that bond within ourselves, because each one of us has these kind of sometimes warring polarities that we have to deal with. But the reality is life and purpose exist somewhere in between. And that's what make us all griots. When we study, when we learn, we absorb. And most importantly, when it changes the way we move through the world.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that I appreciate Scarritt and you and Sandrea and everybody and Saul for this opportunity to unpack.
That's it.
Because literally it's a question of physics. An object at rest remains at rest unless acted on by an outside force. We will stay where we are until we make a conscious decision to do something different. And even the second law, an object in motion remains in motion unless acted on by unbalanced force. Right now, if you feel we're going towards destruction, guess what? Change the trajectory and head in another direction. That's the gift that we all have.
Yeah, that's good.
And a great story gives us an opportunity to unpack this as we move through the world, because that unpacking, that gift of the griot, that one string, that one thread in the tapestry is what made sure that we all still here right now and what's going to make sure that we all going to be here in the future in a better world.
And I'd like to thank you as well. It's truly been an honor to participate in this discussion and to be there with all of you, virtually, of course, but there. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful dialogue.
Yes, I'm so thankful for both of you, and I'm thankful for the capacity because, I think so often we're in this Western dualistic mindset and really understanding that there is no separation between the secular and the sacred. That's the fullness of humanity. And so the dichotomy that we might rip ourselves from ourselves is what really traps us into ourselves. And so with that, I want to invite our executive director, Reverend Sandrea Tolbert, to the stage.
No, thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. All the griots that are most certainly in the room, that are online. Thank you, Saul. Thank you, Reverend Jeff Obafemi Carr. Thank you, Reverend Kelli X. Thank you, Michael Vaughn. Thank you for those, our audience that is really brave the elements to come out tonight. Thank you. I just want to commend you all for opening up your minds and your hearts for this dialogue. Because it says really who Scarritt is. That Scarritt is indeed that place that we create space to have this type of dialogue. That we have 4 tenets: women's empowerment, racial justice, spiritual formation, and transformative education. And what you have witnessed tonight has most certainly been transformative education. It has most certainly been that we can have an open dialogue about the sacred as well as the spiritual, to remind us that we are all griots, but also to remind us all to not to become drunk with the wine of the world, that we forget thee, because most certainly how great thou art. So we invite you to most certainly partner with us here at Scarritt to continue this work. If you are not already subscribing to our newsletter and on our website, please do that, scarrittbennett.org. If you enjoy being able to come to events like this on the low, on the free, we most certainly welcome you to donate, because any amount is most graciously appreciated. But never underestimate the power of connection. That is the wealth. And that is what is standing before you today. That I have known Saul Williams for a very long time.
Very long time.
And I've known Reverend Jeff Obafemi Carr before he was Reverend and before I was Reverend. But how God orchestrates in order for the story to be told. And so we hope that you will most certainly take away from here to continue to talk about, to continue to have an open dialogue, and to think about Scarritt Bennett Center when you do. God bless you, and we invite you to come back to this place called Scarritt Bennett, the quiet oasis in the middle of the hustle and bustle of Midtown. God bless you, and may you go forth and be co-creators of justice. God bless you. Thank you, Saul.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.